Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Kat of Kat's Horror Corner. Kat, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing very well. It is such an honor to have you here to learn how horror started for you. But before we talk about why you are here, Kat, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are an award-winning filmmaker and scholar with an unyielding love of all things horror. Your films have screened at film festivals both in the US and internationally. And your short, Stephen the Dead Girl, is picked up for distribution by the horror streaming platform Alter, which is super, super dope. So, is it still streaming on Alter now?
It is, yes. It is restricted because of the content, but if you search for it, you should be able to find it.
Well, the good thing is you guys won't have to search for it because I have not only the link for Stephen the Dead Girl in the description, I also have all of Kat's social media links. So you can follow along with her so you can stay up to date not only on the things that she's done in the past, but the things that she's working on in the future as well. So beyond that, you are finishing your PhD in film studies. You are a professor of genre cinema and has been teaching classes on the horror genre to undergraduates for the last 3 years now. You're making short films, you're making horror films, you're teaching, you're doing undergraduate studies. How do you find the time to manage all this?
It's a great question. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where sometimes my attention has to go to just like teaching, and then I'll try to be working on screenplays like in between that. And then usually like the summer months, like right now when I don't have to be teaching is when I'm trying to like make stuff and make it happen. So but yes, I stay very busy. I don't sleep a lot.
Well, I mean, that's awesome because like you get one chance here, and you're
Right.
making the most of it. You're doing all the things that you want to do. And you were like, you know what? That's not enough because in 2021, you launched your YouTube channel, Cat's Horror Corner, where you review and analyze both current and timeless classics within the horror genre. So I love the fact that you're like, I barely ever sleep, and that still was too much. So I decided to add something else onto it. So,
Yes.
the YouTube channel, Cat's Horror Corner, that's actually how you and I discovered each other.
Yep.
So, what gave you the desire to actually want to start doing the YouTube channel?
So it really came from doing like the PhD work, and just writing papers and doing like film analysis, which I've always loved doing. Um, Unfortunately, just like within academia, the industry is kind of like small. So the only way that you can really get your work out there is by publishing in like journals and stuff like that. But not everyone has access to that. And I was like, I want to like be able to do something and have a wider audience. And not be so limited by just the kind of like jargon of academia and kind of have more fun with it. And I feel like film analysis
Right.
especially lends itself better to video where you can actually show clips and show people what you're talking about rather than just like having to write it in words. So that was really what started it. I haven't had time to do film analysis as much as I wanted to because I'm finishing up my dissertation, but that's going to be done in a couple months. So that I'm all in on the YouTube.
That's awesome. And you guys, like I said, you can get a jump start on that because her YouTube link is also in the description. So when you're going through and you're following her on social media and you're checking out her short films, make sure you're also subscribing to the YouTube channel so that way you can support her and all the work that she does here because she's here on my first horror movie now, but I promise you she's going to be back doing other things with Sledgehammer Horror. So I'm
Yes.
very excited for that. And I'm very excited to watch her channel grow as big as it can possibly get. So make sure you're a part of that family as well. Now, in order for you to be doing all these things in horror, to be teaching horror, to be making horror short stories, to be doing a YouTube channel dedicated to horror, horror had to start for you somewhere, Kat. So now I would
Yeah.
like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Kat, the first horror movie that you watched was?
Stephen King's It, the original 1990 miniseries, which holds a very special place in my heart.
It is a fantastic made for TV movie. And we often forget that because of how iconic it's become. This didn't get
Right.
a theatrical release. This didn't have a huge budget. This was a weekly episodic TV thing, and it fucking is so dope. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it, Cap?
Oh gosh, I think I was in fourth grade. So what is that, like 11, 12, maybe younger?
Yeah, right in that
So
area.
somewhere around there. And it was actually my mom. She was watching it on TV. They were playing it just like one rainy afternoon, very much like the one that starts off the movie. And I remember being bored and was like, I'm just gonna go bug my mom and be a little shit. And went up to her and she was like, here, you want to watch this with me? And I was like, okay. I had no idea what it was. She just said it was a scary movie. I was like, cool. And yeah, the first time I saw Pennywise on screen, I was just like terrified, but also hooked immediately from that moment.
Right. And what I love about that is you're like, I just went and annoyed my mom and was a little shit. And she was like, you know what? Watch this fucking clown cat. That's what you're going to do now.
That's
If
exactly
you want to annoy me, well, now here's what you get.
exactly.
That's super awesome. And this is a movie that has really stood the test of time. And for
Yeah.
being a made-for-TV film, you do not get that a lot. But do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
Yeah, I didn't come in at the movie right at the beginning. I came in the middle, and it was the scene where young Eddie is in the shower and he's going to take a shower, and Pennywise just comes up from the drain. And like, I don't know why, just the stop motion animation in that scene, like when he's like pulling the drain apart and then like popping up, like that terrified me. I had not seen anything like that up until that point, and I was like, I don't know what I'm watching right now. I don't know what this is.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the scene that grabbed me. And then his teeth are all like weird and gnarly, and I was like, oh my god. And then it's kind of weird because it like just kind of fades out to like the present, and I'm like, wait, what happened? Did he survive that? What's going on? So yeah, I was hooked immediately.
Especially when you're watching it for the first time, and this is not something, we watch these things now and we're so desensitized because of the amount of horror that we watch. But when you're watching it for the first time and you see a clown come up through the drain, you're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, I see this thing at the restaurant down the road with the golden arches. What's it doing here now? This is crazy. And what I love about this is, and we'll get into that. We'll talk about Pennywise himself here in a second, but for being a made-for-TV movie, this stuff has a decent amount of kills. Now, while they may not be the goriest or the most graphic kills, they do have a lot of memorable kills throughout it, 1990. Yes. So which kill would you say is your favorite in the miniseries?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember them. I mean, I guess just the stuff in the drain with the one bully when he's like pulling the bully in the. That was another moment where I was like, what is happening? This is going by the rules.
Belt.
Yes, belt. Yeah. Oh, so creepy. I was like, and I think that was like just the thing that really got me into horror was that you could have these like ordinary scenes, these ordinary moments, these ordinary locations that we all have, but then just this things that shouldn't be happening that should not exist in the real world. And like at the time when I was watching it, I didn't know how to articulate that, obviously, but that's really what got me. I think it was that, and then the combination of is it Stu when he like offs himself at the end of the first half of the miniseries? Dan, yes. That also for me was like, because I've never seen anything like that before. I had no idea what I was watching, but it was just this weird combination of like the real life stuff and then this more like fantastical stuff kind of coming together. That's what I've continued to love about horror since then.
Well, and especially like I've talked about this on the podcast before, but movies is like Pet Sematary, Poltergeist, The Exorcist, the It miniseries. Watching this as a 8, 9, 10-year-old little boy in comparison to a 37-year-old man are two completely different viewings. Watching this as a little boy, I relate to the Losers Club. Yep. I relate to, Help Me when they're all together and they're hugging. As a 37-year-old with kids, I look at it as get the fuck out of those woods. Get home to your parents right now. Exactly. So that's what I love about horror, especially. Like there are so many movies that you can watch as a adolescent, as a teenager, and as an adult, and have three completely different viewing experiences because of how you've grown as a human being. And I think that's special to go back and rewatch these movies we watched as young children and see how they affect us now as adults. You don't have to be a parent to have empathy for children. So I hate to say, go watch it as a parent. You don't have to be a parent to have empathy in your chest. Like that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But this movie did get the remake treatment. We got it 2017, 2019, chapter 1 and chapter 2 respectively. Did you see the remakes? And if so, what was your opinion on the remakes?
I did see the remakes. I really enjoyed part one. I thought, I mean, I don't know, there was something about the simplicity of the 1990s version that I still prefer. But overall, I thought that they did pretty well with it. I was very nervous going into that one. Part two, not my favorite.
See, it's so funny because I'm in the huge minority here, where It Chapter 2 is actually my favorite out of all of them.
Really?
I think Bill Hader completely steals the show in that.
He's great, yeah.
I'll tell you this, like I genuinely was in the theater with tears coming down my face when he was carving him and Eddie's into the bridge.
Yeah.
Also, I was born and raised in Michigan, and we have a huge Paul Bunyan statue here. So seeing the Paul Bunyan statue, you know, like that was something that hit close to home.
Okay.
I actually just put a post on Instagram with it had the Paul Bunyan statue and it was playing the I Know Your Secret. And I was like, there's something very familiar about this. You know, like
I love that.
There's certain things that the remake, especially the 2019 one, did that just like really hit me emotionally. I thought that, like I said, Bill Hader, his whole performance was just rock solid. Like that's the movie that showed me Bill Hader can be your main guy. He doesn't have to be the goofy best friend or anything like that. And this is not a slight at Chapter 1 or It 1990. Saying that this is my favorite is like saying I like a hamburger over chicken nuggets. Like I fucking love chicken nuggets too, but like it's just that's my preference.
I did enjoy Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I did enjoy like the remake with the adults. I thought they did that a lot better than the 1990s version. I've never been a huge fan of part two of 1990, even as a kid. I was like, I just want to stay with the kids. And I felt that way even in the book as well, reading it. So yeah,
yes, for me it goes 2019 TV series Chapter 1, It Chapter 1, TV series Chapter 2. Like that's how it goes for me too. So I said earlier we were going to talk about Pennywise again. Now you did see the remake. Which Pennywise do you prefer, the Bill Skarsgård or the Tim Curry from the TV series?
I'm gonna have to go with Tim Curry. I mean, it might just be because that's what I grew up with. So to me, like that's just kind of burned into my brain as like the first time I was scared. Like for me, that's it. But again, I think it goes back to the simplicity of it, right? Like him just kind of being, you know, there was no CGI, there was stop motion, but there wasn't kind of anything too wild like what we get in the remake where he's, you know, suddenly like huge and then small and then like contorting all over the place. And like I think that's definitely like creepy and has its place. But for me, I'm always a fan of just the more kind of realistic aspects of it.
And when you look at it like that, I mean I agree with you. Again, nothing against Skarsgård. Skarsgård was
he's great.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
But with Tim Curry's Pennywise, I would walk up to Tim Curry's Pennywise as a child and be like, yeah, give me a balloon. If I saw Skarsgård's Pennywise as a child, I'd have ran the other way. Like, I'd be like, fuck that. That thing's scary as hell. And, you know, Stephen King has always said that, you know, Pennywise was influenced by John Wayne Gacy, you know, a real guy that would put on a clown suit and was the most beautiful looking clown, but a hideous monster on the inside. And I thought Tim Curry really did a visual representation of a beautiful clown on the outside, but a monster on the inside. And,
yes.
Skarsgård was just a goddamn monster altogether. Like that guy was scary as hell. I was like, no, thanks, I'm good.
When he was in the drain, he's just like drooling.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God.
You want your boat?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
So we one last thing, because usually when I talk about like a franchise, I ask what's your favorite in the franchise. Well, this isn't quite a franchise.
Right.
We have an original, we have a remake, but we do have the upcoming TV series, Welcome to Derry. Yes. Are you excited about Welcome to Derry, the prequel?
Yes and no. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. I know that it's happening, but I don't know much like about it after that. It's gonna be on HBO, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, since it's gonna be on HBO, they tend to do pretty quality stuff. So I have high hopes. That'll be something good. Honestly, I'm also a little fatigued on the whole franchise thing. So I'm kind of like, this is great how it is. Like, do we need all the prequels and stuff? So, but I'm open-minded. I'm excited to see how it goes and what they're going to actually do with it. Are they going to take some of the stories from the book, like before we get the stuff with the main kids, and kind of adapt that? Because that would be interested. I'd be interested in seeing that.
I'm cautiously optimistic because I love it. I love Pennywise. I love the story. But I am a very well-known person that does not like prequels, especially with horror, because I know who's safe. I know who's not safe. I don't have that tension building. Like, this person's in a lot of trouble. They're going to be fine. I've seen the other one. They're fine. They're going to make it. They're good. So that's the type of thing that, I'll be very interested in the story and the direction they take. But I know that Pennywise will be okay. I know he's not going to die. So, but we'll see. Like I said, very cautiously optimistic. So,
I'm with you.
I've had an amazing time talking about your first horror movie, Kat, and what It 1990 means to you. But now I want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you here for a second.
Okay.
My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Kat? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh, gosh. It feels like such a generic answer, but I have to go with Halloween, the 1979 John Carpenter original. It was my second horror movie after It that my mom showed me, also on TV, was Halloween 5.
Oh.
Which was an interesting one, to say the least. But I just remember like the beginning part when he's like at that like weird guy's shack and whatever, he's healing him. And my mom just like turns to me and she's like, this guy never dies. And again, as like a 12-year-old, I was like, what does that mean?
Right.
So yeah, and then I was hooked on Michael Myers. Yeah, exactly. So then I was hooked on Michael Myers, and yeah, the first one is like probably the only other film besides the first It that like just terrified me for weeks.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Never been a huge Halloween fan myself. I respect the franchise, but I came into Halloween late. I started off with Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, Friday the 13th. Nice. And then I watched Halloween and I was like, oh, this is kind of boring. This guy just stabs people. Like, can he shoot a harpoon gun or do something cool? But again, mad respect. Like, as an adult, I think Halloween is probably the scariest because it's just a dude. It's just your next door neighbor that snapped and painted a William Shatner mask and was like, let's do this, man. Let's fucking go kill some babysitters and shit. So, now, like I said, much respect for Halloween. I think that it's a fantastic franchise. And I want to remind everybody, I do have all of Kat's social media links, her YouTube link as well as the link to her short film on Alter down in the description. So please make sure you're checking all that out and becoming a part of her family here online. Now, before I let you go, Kat, we always go back to the same question. We're going to go back to It 1990. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics here, Kat. All we're doing is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Kat, what would your ranking of It 1990 be?
I think I would have to give it 5 out of 5. I'm just going by how it affected me. Like, I mean, I was convinced that Pennywise was going to come out of my drains after I saw it.
Yeah.
I was convinced he was going to come out of like the heater vents. Like, I was convinced he was going to like come out of just like whatever little nook and cranny he could find. So yeah, it worked for me. It scared the hell out of me.
Fantastic. Like I said, if you didn't watch this, Kat, who knows if you and I would be having this conversation right now.
Exactly.
What a great way to start. While it wasn't my first horror movie, me and my cousins, I just told a story a couple days ago. Me and my cousins, my aunt used to live in like a 2-story house, and like the top story was like her house, and the bottom was like just a garage, like a pull-in garage. And we literally made that into our own little apartment when we were kids. And like we would build cabins out in the woods. We would literally build dams to try to stop the water. Like, we were the Losers Club.
Yeah.
And in that garage is where I watched It 1990 for the first time. It's where I watched Hellraiser for the first time. It's where I watched Child's Play 3 for the first time. All these movies that are still super important to me happened in that house. And, like I said, growing up, we were the Losers Club. Me, Josh, Al, Brandy, Britley, Kendra, Jack. Like, that was us. Like, we were the fucking Losers Club for sure. And it was just my family. That's all it was me and my cousins, my kid sister. And I watch this movie and I'm transported back to being a little boy, hanging out with all my cousins. And, just over the summer, that's all we did. It was
Yeah.
be kids and build dams and go swimming and, the cool things that happen. So anytime I get to talk about this movie, it's definitely an honor. So, Kat, please don't go anywhere. I have a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. All our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.